Well, also, it's not every day that I meet an actual deist. I mean, like, in real life. Oh, sorry. This is Marcellus. He's a deist. An actual deist. One of the artists I've been talking about. And what's even better is that this is his book. He drew all these sketches.
Yeah, that's me.
Alright, so I'm sorry, I just have so many questions. So I guess just to clear something up, who's the girl that's sketched all throughout the book? What is her connection with the honor system?
That's Yakia, a real close friend of mine from the tribe of Atima. She led the second revolution against the corporation.
Wait, second revolution?
Yeah. You see, Yakia always had trouble expressing herself. She was afraid to get judged and always tried to do things other artists did. But one day, she built her own drum and began to play music. And around that time, the corporation tried to come back and enslave us again. But she motivated everyone to rebel, and all through her music. And just like what happened with Zion, the gods helped us defeat the corporation.
So wait, that means that she figured out the honor system?
Yeah, and she used it to complete her goals. Not exactly the way Zion did it, but on her own natural talents.
Almost the exact same way that all artists do. If an issue bothers them enough, they will use their own artistic gifts to challenge the existing problem.
I was blessed to be able to come on and start working at the Southwest Art Center in the capacity I work in, and organize exhibitions, create programs, I do a thing called exhibition projects, where I've collaborated with, used visual arts and dance choreography in a collaboration project, Camouflage 1 and 2, which was a great project. It was with Don Axon and Axon Theatrical Experience. Beautiful. We'll probably do another one this year or next year. But a project called Bridging the Gap, where it was a collaboration between visual arts and MCs, visual artists and MCs, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Unheard of. What? And I did one that was visual artists and DJs called The Antidote, which was an exhibition and all-night dance party. You know, with an emphasis on visual art. Is side by side with the collaborative genre.
The 13 Bricks movement is about making our environment a product of our inner selves. It's about inverting that principle and reflecting what we would like to see, this vision that we have in our hearts and that we share, making that a physical reality and environment for us to interact in. There was a time where the printing press innovated art in a way that made it accessible to everyone. And in that same fashion, we're making art accessible to all people, regardless of what people would call class distinction. I don't believe in class distinction. I think that we're all one species, we're all one. However, not everyone can afford fine art. Not everyone can even afford the opportunity to go to a museum or a gallery and experience fine art and get that expansive kind of learning, you know. And I think in some ways we're bringing it to the streets, to the urban environments by making it on a t-shirt. We're actually making it accessible to anyone, and all people wear t-shirts regardless of their age, sex, region. Like it's kind of a unanimous item that's, I feel like it's everywhere you go. T-shirts are just accessible, and I think people are gonna be wearing them for a long time. There's many themes that 13 Bricks clothing embodies, actually. And in some ways, it's the dualistic nature of the immaterial world and the physical world, you know, the dream world and this reality. And in other ways, it's nature versus our human kind of our creatorship. You know, how we've kind of deviated off the path of what nature, I think, intended for us in a lot of ways. And getting back to something that's sustainable, getting back to our roots and understanding our true identities, and we're repurposing culture so that it best serves us and best represents what we want, the change that we want to see in the world. We want to make sure that people understand the relevance and context of art, and by supporting us, that is what they're helping us do. They're helping us reinforce and help art reemerge into the daily language that we all share and use.
I guess when I see an issue and I can use my art to bring light to that issue, you know, to share in the passion of something that might be happening. You know, the best example I can think of is the End It movement, which is to raise awareness for slavery, and being able to take that issue that's going on and to creatively drive it into a piece I'm working on, like a short video clip.
Nearly 48 people a day become slaves on our soil. Oh, and I should mention that the average age is 14. Now here's the thing. I hate saying numbers because then I begin to sound like CNN, and we become numb because it's just another daily report. And Christy and Rose and Maria Suarez are nothing of the sort. They're not numbers, they're souls. They cry and bleed like you and me, and wherever they are, they have the same right to be free. Now, I'm from Atlanta specifically, and we have a particular problem with sex trafficking slavery. So I'm going to take a little detour for just a bit and look at our pop culture, because I can't justly make this fit. I hear some of these songs that are the quote top 10. You've heard them too, seen the cool videos they pitch, hanging with the niggas and their leashed up bitch. Now, those that know me know I'm a nerdy white girl, and the last thing I want is to create offense. So I say these words because I'm trying to make it make sense. I figured it's okay because I'm using it for my art. I mean, that's all they're doing, right? It just comes from the heart. So when Lil Wayne dances round his bitches in cages and chains, it's okay, it's just entertainment, it's culture, it's hot, but it's not.
I was getting responses from people I'd never met, and asking to use it at seminars, or people just saying, hey, this is a really awesome piece, it really moved me, and I wanted to share it here, or hey, I just wanted to let you know. It was people who I'd never met just through the online community responding to this. Was really cool.
A lot of my current art is definitely affected by or influenced by my personal life. The situations that I see going on around me in terms of, you know, social injustices. I've always been someone who believes in the rights for all. And the idea that there are things like homophobia and sexism and racism and ageism and slut shaming and fat shaming and things like that that are going on in the world today, that really bothers me. More than anything, I think I just want to make people stop and reconsider. Not think. I think that's a little arrogant. I think that's a little presumptuous. But just maybe reconsider. You know, something that maybe they thought was true or not true.
The honor system consists of 3 key factors: power, freedom, and understanding. The more power we have over ourselves, the more freedom we gain.
So I'm guessing your ancestors didn't have understanding when they split up.
Not really. You see, the last part, understanding, actually comes in 2 key points. They understood themselves, of course.
Right.
That comes in power and freedom. But they didn't have understanding of others, people who were not artists.
Mm-hmm.
Yakia figured out that we have the opportunity to serve through art. Like every artist, these or not, we can observe and express in a unique perspective. That, in turn, will spark an emotion to our audience.
The artist, you know, that's just the way I express. But somebody who's, like, for example, when you're talking about motivational speaking, you know, if you're talking to a classroom, I do career day events at high schools or middle schools, elementaries, and it's really the confidence as an artist that you have that could be used as a motivator or something, you know, to inspire or influence someone else, whether they're an artist or not.
I love inspiring others because I love being inspired.
Oh my God, I take so much joy in inspiring people. Every time I go home, I meet some young high school kid like, hey, I want to be a filmmaker too. I want to go to SCAD, or I want to do this, and this of art. And at one point, one kid told me, I came back home, I was a sophomore in college, he was a sophomore in high school. He told me, oh man, like you inspire me, man. I really love what you do. You're a cool dude. I want to do what you do. And then I hadn't done anything at the time, no projects. But man, that like lit a spark under me. That lit a huge fire. And I'm doing it for that one guy in hopes that one day I'll drop a film and he loves it.
That is one of the greatest things about being a teacher. You know, even if you have a kid who is just like, you know, I hate this class, I don't want to be here, this isn't relevant to what I want to study, things like that. You can take that level of frustration, and if you're smart, you can reach that person, find some kind of common ground, and say, okay, you know what? I know you think that it doesn't work for you, but here's how it does work for you. And just making sure that you give it your best shot and you keep trying, you know, until that student sees how things are relevant, you know, to what he wants to do or she wants to do.
I've been teaching art to people for over 15, almost 20 years. So I think that's a large part of it too, because each time I am, you know, instructing or doing some teaching for whether it's a young student or adult student, it's important because I get something from that as well. And what better way, how better to represent as a teacher than as a doer? You know, so I feel like as long as I'm teaching and I'm giving people instruction or mentoring, that I need to be on my grind as well. So I could better serve them if I'm on mine. So it's like, you know, killing two birds with one stone. And as far as just, you know, pushing boundaries and being able to mentor, how can I mentor a young artist trying to do what I'm trying to do if I'm not doing it?
Psychology is used on people, and it's been done for a long time. In a lot of ways, we are using this same psychological force, but we're flipping it so that we can help people. Like we're enabling people, inspiring them, making sure that they realize that they have potential and that they can do whatever it is they want to do.
I was talking earlier about the band I was in. I was in a metal band years ago, and somebody else had put up a couple of our songs on YouTube, and I found out, oh, that's funny, ha ha ha, and I posted it, I think on Twitter, and I got all these people that were just like, oh, I want to hear more, I want to hear more, I want to hear more. So I was like, oh, really? Like, all right, whatever. So I sent them a couple of tracks, and I had people that literally wrote me back, and they're like, you know, I've never listened to metal before, and I never thought that it could be anything that I would even like, but I like this. So what else should I check out? And I think that that's pretty awesome, coming from a dude that grew up in a place, in a position, in an environment, in an area where it was not kosher for a black dude to be walking around listening to punk rock or metal or anything outside of hip hop. I think it was cool to inspire some dude who never even thought about listening to those genres of music, actually giving him a chance.
As an actor, I believe that you have a lot of power to the human condition to affect people, because, you know, like I said, you're taking their story and you're putting it out there, and you're saying you're not alone.
And I'm hoping that with my art, I'll make someone else's life beautiful. At least, even if just for a second, or 2 hours or 5 minutes, like a 5-minute scene in a movie, the rest of it sucks. That one scene is just mind-blowing. Even that would be good enough.
A man and his son, young son, walking along this stretch of beach. And they come upon these hundreds and hundreds of starfish. Okay? And the little boy looks up at his dad and he says, well, what'll happen, you know, with all of the starfish being washed up on the beach, and, you know, what's going to happen to them? And the father says, oh, well, you know, they're probably going to eventually die. So the little boy goes and picks up a starfish and takes it to the end of the water and puts it back in the water. Comes back and does it again. And does it 3 or 4 more times, and then finally his father goes over to him and says, you know, there's so many of them, there are hundreds here, you're not making a difference. You know, just let it go. The little boy holds up one of the starfishes and he says, well, I'm making a difference to this one. And that's kind of my MO. That's my artist statement. You know, I can't reach everybody, but I can try. And even if I just meet, you know, reach 1 or 2 people, a dozen people, 100 people, then that's a blessing. And I'm really lucky to be able to do that.
Like there was this one girl who, she's still in high school, and she was telling me how, you know, she listened to the same kind of music I do now. She listens to that, and she was always saying how she felt so odd and so awkward. She was like, man, it's so cool that someone like you on this this big YouTube show, like that's something important, that you're on this YouTube show that I love and all my friends like. It's so cool that you like the music I like. You talk about the music that I get picked on for listening to, so now I feel normal. Part of me is like, man, that's rad. That's rad that you can look at me and I make you feel normal.
I think most artists say this, but if I can just reach one person or a handful of people and make them realize, or help them realize, you know, we're all more or less the same. And I might be different from you, but there are definitely parallels within my life that hopefully we can kind of see our commonalities rather than our differences.
Of course, there will always be those who are inspired differently.
I think a lot of people see it as being either kind of phony, just like no one can be that idealistic, you know, and be real about it.
I get called an asshole pretty regularly. I get called a bullshitter. You know, I get called all kinds of stuff.
Loudmouth, bitch comes to mind.
Stereotype away, because let's be honest, it's who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it.
A lot of people see me as being really opinionated, and to some people that's really positive, and some people not so much.
Thankfully, in my family, I was always encouraged. I think everybody saw it as a blessing. Everybody, you know, they didn't always understand what I was doing, everything I was doing, but just the general right to pursue it was always supported.
It's just ironic that the same people who kind of doubted my ability are kind of now sharing and celebrating with me, seeing, you know, what it is and seeing what I'm capable of putting together, you know, and seeing my efforts come to fruition and in the sense of bringing the community together.
I have been so supported as an artist by my family and by my community that I've never felt like, oh, I can't pursue this life. You know, it's been ingrained in my passion, and I've had the support to keep that ingrained.
And I would say that the community at large here in Savannah, Georgia has been extremely helpful in offering their aid, and we would just like to continue and demonstrate that we're worth investing their time and energy into.
That's why it's so important for a society, a family, you know, your closest friends, etc., to support an artist in that journey.
Regardless of what you're creating, an artist's imagination is limitless. Their ideas won't ever be blind.
I never wanted to do one thing, ever. There was never just one thing that I wanted to do. By concentrating on something, it was like kind of, it was limiting my potential.
Everyone has got to be passionate about something. There's something that makes everyone tick. And whatever art form you do, you have the opportunity to steer that into your art and to let it go out into the world. And I think you have an obligation to utilize that.
We're galactic, you know what I mean? And, you know, no limitations as far as, you know, art, music. Why limit it to just your neighborhood? You can take it, you know, share who you are with the world. Everybody wants to know, they want to see it, you know, regardless. I mean, you see how much on a global scale we interact internet-wise. You know, people, it's plenty of, even if you take it back to the 20s, you know, Harlem Renaissance and all that, how the artwork from artwork created by American artists, very well accepted and received in overseas, in Europe and everything.
I had this sight, this thing that I could see that not necessarily everybody could see. And so I felt like it was worth mentioning, you know, and I felt like it was worth working towards and putting effort and energy and time and even finances towards, you know, because it's an investment that I think helps everybody come up.
The power of really visionaries, visual artists. You know, I see not just visual artists, musicians, because a lot of musicians, Sun Ra, Miles Davis, James Brown, these cats were visionaries also. I think the power is in being a visionary, because you see things that the average civilian may not see.
They see things and they can express things and they can share things that, you know, the scientists or the mathematicians have a different way of seeing, but they can still connect because we're all people. When it comes down to it, we're all human beings, and the artist has a very powerful understanding, I think, of the human condition.
You know, you're in the forefront, like Premier say, DJ Premier, we, you know, torch carriers, not torch followers.
They can try to stop me.